each survivor from the game Don't Starve Together, and limitedly in Don't Starve, have some fun lore and backstories. Some of that lore comes in the form of well-structured animations, and some of it comes from quotes. But Clay made sure to make every single character unique, and where there is uniqueness, well, there's tier lists. Yep, it's another tier list video, everyone. Hope you're ready, because today I will be ranking each survivor on their backstory, from coolest to most boring. In my opinion, of course. Oh yeah, and before we start, I'm not only going to be basing my rankings on official lore, but also very implied lore. But I'll leave the theories that reach too far out of my rankings. Let's start strong with Wilson. Mr. Clay poster child himself. Let's see. He's a mad scientist who also failed a lot, blew up public property which caused him to leave college, and found himself stuck in the world of Don't Starve. He also canonically was the pioneer for Don't Starve Together alongside Maxwell, of course. There's way more depth to Wilson than I'm giving him here, and as a Wilson main, you would expect me to put him high on the list, but he's honestly got a pretty basic trope. I mean, think about it. How many stories start with a mad scientist who always fails, and then miraculously something works and boom, storyline starts? It's a little shallow and pedantic, but he is still Wilson, so I'm gonna give him B tier. The game just wouldn't be the same without his face. Next up, we have Willow, the fire starter with surprisingly deep lore. She grew up in an orphanage, burned down said orphanage, and then seemingly worked directly with Maxwell to burn other places down before getting herself sent to the Constant. So she's basically an agent of the shadows who was seemingly betrayed, so that's kind of interesting. But is it enough to land her in S tier? Well, you see, the Don't Starve cast is full of interesting little critters, some more so than our fire starter here, but I will admit her backstory is pretty cool, so I'll give her a solid A tier. Next up, we have Wolfgang, the stereotypical weak-minded strongman. Wolfgang's backstory is, well, I'll give Clay credit here, it's a little unique. He worked for a circus. This circus turned out to be unsurprisingly a sham circus. Wolfgang actually wasn't strong until Maxwell decided to get in a train crash near him, where he gets actual strength, temporarily, until he somehow arrives in the Constant and makes it permanent. There's a few holes in this story, like how did he manage to make his way into the Constant, but overall it's pretty unique and enough to keep him out of F tier. However, because his entire trope is so overdone in media and ununique, I have to unfortunately make him the first victim of D tier. Next up, Wendy, a character still veiled in mystery. Well, somewhat. We do know that Wendy is Maxwell's niece, and that her sister, Abigail, suffered a tragic death, which left Wendy numb to the idea of death and the dying process. It's a sad backstory, but is it unique? Well, because Wendy is connected to one of the most important characters in the game, and because she barely has any plot holes in her story, we know when and how she was transported into the Constant, and we know almost everything about her backstory, so that gets her some serious bonus points. I would honestly say a solid low A tier. She's interesting for sure, but is unfortunately overshadowed in complexity by some of the other cast members. Next up, we have WX78, and ooh man, are they an interesting one. So WX78 wasn't always a soulless automaton. They originally were Wagstaff's assistant. Yes, the Wagstaff Don't Starve, who sort of took over the antagonist role as of lately. That alone provides lots of complexity. But they also used to be human, before transitioning into a superior inorganic casing, and then being supposedly dumped into the Constant by Wagstaff himself. Yeah, that's pretty cool. A story of both transhumanism and betrayal. They use a trope that I'm personally biased to thinking is really cool, and sure, I mean, it's used a lot, but every time it is used, it's usually really cool. Think of the game Soma, if any of you have played that. Yeah, I'm biased here because of the themes provided, but I think WX is our first solid S tier character, lore-wise. Such a cool character. Next up, we have Wickerbottom, the character I ranked the smartest in my How Smart Are the Survivors video. But does that make her backstory interesting enough to be high enough on this list? Well, let's see. All we really know is she ran a library, that she got burnt down by Willow, and then accepted a deal to hold all of the knowledge of said library, in return for being trapped forever in the Constant. But there's a few more speculations on her lore. It's implied that she actually had been studying the Constant thanks to her secret library in her basement, which was kinda strange and had some strange objects. But Clay hasn't really gone that in depth with her backstory, And to be frank, without some crazy speculations, she's a little shallow, C tier. Next up, we have Woody. Woody lore. Well, there's not actually a lot, but this might be a hot take. Woody lacking so much lore actually goes perfectly with his character. The whole premise of the werebeaver is that he's meant to be some kind of cryptid, shrouded in mystery, like a Wendigo or something. And if Clade ever decided to drop his entire backstory, it would kind of ruin that. We get very obscure snippets of Woody's lore via Walter's campfire stories, and honestly, that's good enough for me. What makes him cool is the mystery surrounding him and especially Lucy. Solid A tier. Next up, we have Wes. Remember how I said lack of lore was actually a good thing for Woody? Yeah, it's not for Wes. So all we really know about Wes is that he's French, is a mime, and accidentally took the place of some other dude in the Constant, and is therefore hated by Maxwell. He's also incredibly misfortunate, but we're not exactly sure why. Wes is a case of we don't know much about him, and that's a bad thing. He doesn't even have any quotes because, he can't speak. Sorry, Wes, but you will be the first to go into F tier. Hopefully we learn more about him with whatever Clay's cooking up in his skill tree animation, if we get any lore from that, because generally we don't get much lore from those animations. Next up, Maxwell. Our very first antagonist turned sort of anti-hero in a way, since he's still a generally unlikable person, but can now be understood a little better. William Carter, Maxwell's real name, started from humble beginnings in Liverpool, where he then moved to New York via boat and began his magician career. After a little while, he caught a train to the West Coast that crashed, and then still made his way over, somehow, where he met with Charlie. They did their grand performance, and the rest is history. We know so much about Maxwell, which is funny because we know more about him than Wilson, the poster child. It would genuinely be a crime to put Maxwell anywhere other than the very top of S tier. He has barely any plot holes, besides some weird travel-related ones, and the question about how he had any debt when he literally could do magic, but overall, he is incredibly fleshed out, and probably the most fleshed out character in the entire franchise. Bar two others, of course. One we will be getting into later, and the other, well, that's Charlie, who's not a survivor and thus is excluded from this list. But yeah, easy top S tier for our boy Maxie. Next up, we have Wigfrid. Many people see Wigfrid as a boring character, but her lore is surprisingly complex. Her story starts with her playing the part of a Valkyrie warrior. She even has a dramatic daydream about this part that she played, an actor longing to turn their play into reality, which is pretty unique. Usually, stories will have their actors unwillingly become the parts that they play when they get into meta commentary like that is. Eventually, Maxwell comes along, promises her that she can make her play a reality, and boom. We get the warrior Wigfrid in the Constant. She's probably the only character, alongside Wendy and Willow, who actually probably have a better life inside of the Constant rather than outside. And her story is still filled with a few questions, but for the most part, it's complete, albeit a little basic. I can comfortably say B tier. Next up, Weber, the spider child who also, much like WX, used to be human. Okay, Weber is still human, he's just kind of like two things at once. I always wondered that. Like, is Weber the spider or the boy? It's clear that the human side of Weber is talking, but he can eat monster meat with no downsides. Weber is confusing, and his backstory doesn't shed much light on his situations besides confirming the obvious, that a spider, well, ate him. We don't know how he got into the Constant, and he's not even a cool cryptid like Woody, but hey, I have to admit, unlike some others on this list, at least he has a backstory. Just way too many questions. D tier. Next up, we have Winona. And man, she's pretty complex. She used to work in Wagstaff's Voxala factory in Sydney, Ohio. Then the portal malfunctioned, Winona tried to save the person who was being dragged into the portal, but failed. And then Charlie, who is her sister by the way, met face to face with her, and unfortunately, because Charlie's like super corrupted by the evil shadow guys, she just straight up pulled Winona in. Funny enough, Winona actually took up the job at Voxala to look for her sister. A classic case of searching for the missing sibling. It's a sweet backstory, not entirely unique, but the situation is. And yeah, I think it's alright. B tier. Next up, Worley. And if you thought Wendy's story was tragic, Worley, man, his is rough. Worley was a simple man. He was previously a sous chef in the city of Paris before returning home to care for his mother, Angeline, who was suffering from a form of dementia. In his last day in the real world, he returned home with groceries, cooked some mussel bouillabaisse, spent some quality time with his mother, and then is ripped from the world and brought to the Constant. On the bright side, Maxwell normally always made deals with the survivors, so one could hope that Worley had made a deal to ensure that his mother would have gotten better, but as of now, we don't know. His backstory is very isolated, there's no other major players in the story like the other characters, but I think that's okay. It's wholesome, sad, and makes you realize that Worley is a character with a lot of depth to him. A tier. Next up, we have Wartox, the mischievous imp himself. Wartox used to be a young, uncorrupted imp who hung around with a full-blown Krampus. Eventually, Wartox got tired of his shenanigans and actually fought back, absorbing the Krampus's soul and corrupting himself, thus giving us the Wartox we know today. I, of course, grossly oversimplified that because Wartox is actually, in reality, probably the most complex character in the entire game. So, it's implied that he's actually not native to the Constant, or this universe entirely, and it's been proven that he can travel to other universes thanks to the Terraria crossover. But Clay hasn't exactly expanded on this, and sort of left it to our own interpretations. Wartox is an incredibly interesting character, and I'm excited to see what he gets up to in the future with any future crossovers. Low S tier. Next up, we have Wormwood, the son of Alter himself. Now, the only lore, at least from animations that we have gotten, was Wormwood being born in the world of Hamlet. Yeah, that's it. He's a Constant native, so that makes sense. He's not really experienced much at all, and as such, he's a creature filled with potential, but none of it truly realized. And as such, any theories, like the many in my Wormwood theory video, won't be considered here. The only thing we will consider is the fact that Wormwood is sort of like the son of one of the major players in the Constant, so that alone is pretty darn cool. I'm gonna give him low A tier. Next up, we have Wirt, another Constant native who is too young to have too much lore. She just kind of showed up. It's implied that she came from the Gorge, as is the idea of all merms, but that's not tied to Wirt herself, just merm kind in general. And this is a ranking for character lore. I think you see the issue here. Wirt as a character is pretty cool though, being a unique and very intelligent merm, so for that, I guess I'll give her C tier. Next up, Walter. And unfortunately, Walter's backstory and lore are, well, comparatively to a world full of magic and mayhem, overwhelmingly mid. He's literally just a Boy Scout that went out hunting the werebeaver and found a trapped Voxala. That's pretty much it. Though I do think it's cool that he's connected to the character Woody for obvious reasons, so D tier. Next up, Wanda. As a chronomancer who basically flips the entire idea of the Constant on its head, yeah, she's pretty freaking cool. Now, I don't care if you think Wanda is disgustingly OP in-game, which, yeah, we all know she is under the right circumstances, you have to admit her lore is insane. A clockmaker who is being chased by time itself in the form of the shadows, accidentally warping herself into the Constant. As far as I know, she's one of the only non-native Constant characters that managed to find their own way into the Constant. Yeah, she's cool. I'm gonna put her right under Maxwell in S tier. Sorry, you just can't beat Mr. Don't Starve himself. If he wasn't around, we wouldn't have a game. Okay, finally onto the single player characters. So here's the problem. Most, if not all of them, barely have any lore, unless it comes in the form of quotes, and even those are vague and, well, kinda shallow. Like, yeah, we know there's something up with Woodlegs, he knows some stuff he really shouldn't, and Willani's whole pirate debacle, but it's unfortunately safe to say that the single-player exclusive characters are solid F tiers. Yes, they have a lot of mystery, but compared to the fleshed-out stories Together has given us, they have fallen behind dramatically. And as a single-player enthusiast, it really upsets me to rank them this low. But alas, I must stay truthful to myself and you, the viewers. Except, not all of the single-player characters were abandoned lore-wise by Clay. Yes, that's right, Wagstaff, the grainy transmission, is a playable character in Don't Starve, and so he will be ranked. And yeah, Wagstaff is currently the most interesting man in the Don't Starve universe. He's like Wilson if he was actually good at science. He's capable of altering the Constant as we know it with portals, and is himself a transmission, basically a hologram. We know tons about his backstory, like how he first found his way in the Constant through a projector, and he's just a really cool scientist, who's also just the right amount of evil to make you dislike him. A great character design, and one that rightfully goes directly at the top of S tier. Without him, Don't Starve Together's storyline would genuinely be pretty bland, because he just adds a very exciting unknowing factor to the mix. What a funky old guy. Well, there you have it. Another fun and totally pointless opinionated tier list. Hey, it's better than when I ranked the fish, right? If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you aren't already. I made a promise to you guys that if we hit 20k before the end of the summer, then I will be playing Don't Starve and maybe recording it, so let's go. Goodbye everyone, have a wonderful time.